So, Ryan, as a consultant for chiropractors and practice owners all over the world, as someone who's actually lived and breathed and, used to own 8 offices, doing 7.5 million every year, 3,000 patient visits every single week, 10,000 new patients a year, your finger is on the pulse. What would you say is working right now?
Um, yeah, I mean, it's we work with chiropractors all around the world, and there's so many different strategies working in so many different areas. And I know that's whenever I say that, people that's not the answer people want to hear, because they really want me to give them the silver bullets. But I think the best answer to your question is there really isn't a silver bullet. There is multiple strategies that one can do. And guess what I'm learning as I'm getting longer in the tooth with this marketing game, working more and more practices. You know, it's less about the strategy and more about the execution of the strategy. So we have docs that do incredible email campaigns for reactivation strategies that absolutely knock it out the park. And we have docs that do exactly the same strategy, or in their mind what they think is the same strategy, who get very poor results. So what I'm finding is as we go through, it all works and it all doesn't work. So let me dive deep into that a little bit. In certain cities in the States, for example, our big metropolitan areas, we have a higher cost per lead, for example, with our Meta, our Facebook ads, our Instagram ads, etc. So for them, they will have to bolster their team with regards to follow up, their sequences with regard to follow up, their frequency, how they do that so that they can get the leads to come home. And that's just that's an uncomfortable truth. No one really wants to hear that. It's not just the marketing agency. The marketing agency can knock it out the park and generate incredible leads for you, but there really isn't a, hey, just make sure people show up on the day, well prepared, well pre-framed, etc. Your practice will have to do a large part in making that a success. So in those areas, part of the success that's working for them is really going deep with the team on calling the leads appropriately on time, making sure our follow-up sequences are good. We have a proprietary software that we help chiropractors do that with. So for them, that's the strategy that's working. The strategy that's my favorite at the moment is anything to do with building a community. It's by far the one that's the least loved, and by far the one that's helped the most great chiropractors become successful. So that, what I mean by that, our lunch and learns, our workshops in the practice, our patient appreciation events, our reach outs to patients who haven't been in for a while, our personalized reach outs, not automatized reach outs. That is something that most bricks and mortar practices have fallen out in love with. Most bricks and mortar businesses have fallen out in love with that. But it's the thing that's still going to get you the best results is actually some type of personalized thing, whether it's a patient appreciation event, whether it's handwritten cards, whether it's reaching out to someone who hasn't been in for a little while in their DMs and with a line that just says, hey, just checking in, how are you? Those are the things that are working the best from the practices that are the biggest. And by that, I mean, I work with a practice at $2.5 million a year, and I would never, this is not when someone says to me, what's the marketing strategy that they're doing that's working? There's one that comes to mind, but I can't recommend it to someone as a strategy. It's just the way they are in the business. So last Independence Day, as a business, what they did was Thanksgiving rather, on Thanksgiving, they gave everyone pumpkin pies, organic pumpkin pies from, I assume, Whole Foods. Now, that set the practice back a couple $1,000s. Okay, now, just for context, they're a $2.5 million practice, but most people would never have gone to that expense. They spent a couple $1,000s on giving people organic pumpkin pie when they walked in, and you can't recommend that as a marketing strategy, but what you can say is that those people who got that gift on that day, it did two important things. One, there's an incredible book written called Peak, and it was talking about what's the peak of the customer experience when customers were surveyed across businesses, and it wasn't that there was great service, and it wasn't that there was just a good product, and it wasn't that the place was clean. The number one thing people mentioned as the top of the pinnacle of the experience was surprise. So yeah, not only have they given them surprise when they walked in and they had these pumpkin pies, but they also had this incredible experience of actually investing in their customers. So investing in your customers for retention is just something that's quite taboo these days. And why would I spend that money and how do I quantify it? But that we call it gas, giving a you can work out the last one part yourself. But just being a business that does a little bit extra, that sends the handwritten cards, that does the patient appreciation events, that does the pumpkin pies over Thanksgiving, that's working. But now if I try to tell a chiropractor or business owner at large, hey, send handwritten cards and pumpkin pies on Thanksgiving, I'm going to get some funny looks. But the truth is, that's what's working. It's just going a little bit deeper.
I mean, we're halfway through 2024. What are you seeing as the biggest challenges facing chiropractors and practice owners right now who are looking to scale and grow their businesses?
Okay, cool. Great question. There's absolutely one. That's the biggest one. I can't tell you how many chiropractors I get contacted, who contact me, who have had teams, 2 or 3 teams, etc., who are now operating with a skeleton staff or no staff. Okay, or no staff. I've never seen so many practices in that position before, and everyone's kind of, everyone kind of says the same thing to me: is that either staff are hard to find, or good people are hard to find, or it's just a real challenge. And I'll push back on that and say that this chiropractic's been pretty good for quite some time for teaching other chiropractors, whether it's systems, scripts, some good business principles really within chiropractic. But the thing that everyone misses is that none of that's possible without a team. And I'm seeing more and more practices. There's this bit of a buzz around running a low overhead practice that's lean, which everyone says. But if they're honest to themselves, most of the people saying that are not doing it out of choice. They're doing it because they haven't got the skill set to hire, keep, maintain not only A players, but any staff whatsoever. So the biggest challenge by a country mile is someone's ability. In chiropractic, everyone knows very well that you need new patients. So most people go like, Ryan, how do I get new patients? Or most people know very much how, that a huge strategy for growth is keeping patients. Like, hey, Ryan, how do you help me with retention? But those two things are also apply for your team. So the strategy around recruitment and the strategy around keeping team members is by far and away the biggest challenge I see within the industry, specifically in the United States. Wages have gone. Every single person listening to this right now is going to know that wages have gone only one way, and it's not down. And what it really requires you to do is for you to fully understand that we just have to be better. There is no shortage of great people. There's no shortage of incredible staff members. There's none of that. It's not about whether someone's a Gen Z, whether someone's a millennial, and all those kind of labels we put on certain generations as to whether they're good or not. Listen, I work with the most incredible millennials. I work with the most incredible Gen Zs, the most talented group I've ever worked with. But absolutely, that requires us as business owners to get better, communicate better, and not even change always. I think I had a call this week with a doc who was knocking it out. Here's what I mean. I had a call this week with a doc who started with me, is now doing records, right? The strategy that we started with them, jumped in the call with them, they said they had to turn the strategy off. So why do you have to turn the strategy off? They said, I've got no one to phone the leads. So here's what, we're just about to succeed. Everyone's like, how do I get new patients? We find a strategy that's knocking out the park for them. And the thing that's letting them down is the ability to, I want to say, because no one's been taught this. I don't think leadership is just a skill. I think you can be taught it. To lead a team, hire a team, and keep a team so that you can be successful. And the truth is that most chiropractors are pretty bad at everything around running a business, so they need a team members around them to save them from themselves. So my whole call was just on building some core values, hiring process, and allowing people or creating a situation where you're letting people know upfront what you are as a business and what you're not as a business, so that they can be happier. And then you can be happy, and you're aligned before they start with you. And I could definitely do a 2-day seminar on this, let alone answer this question very quickly. But to answer your question, by far and away, the biggest challenge I'm seeing is people's ability to attract A players and then retain A players and build a culture around a team. And then them thinking mistakenly that they can do it themselves. And let me absolutely assure you that no one who's created any massive impact in anything in life has done it themselves. You absolutely need a team, and you need to find a way to keep that team, motivate that team, and grow as a team. So that's my I think by far the biggest challenge I'm seeing in the industry now.
Amazing. And apart from growing a team, keeping a team, and leading a team, what are one or two of the other biggest challenges that you've been seeing in this space right now?
Again, we work with so many chiropractors all across the world. It's so dependent on the areas. My European docs and United Kingdom docs, um, it's retention of customers and what's happened because in the United Kingdom and Europe, customer acquisition costs are quite low, and it's kind of like back in the good old days when if you're watching this and you're from from America. Cost per leads are very achievable in the United Kingdom and the US. United Kingdom and Europe. But what that's done is it made us a little bit lazy with our strategies to keep patients. So earlier you asked me what's really working right now, and I said, look, strategies around going deeper with our customers and keeping customers. Now, what I'm finding in areas, metropolitan areas that are saturated with chiropractors, the chiropractors that are doing 2 million plus are all the chiropractors that have gone deep on that stuff out of pure necessity. If they do not do that, they're in trouble. So what's happened in the United Kingdom and Europe, because we can just push a button and get new patients from a Facebook ad, we're probably a little bit lazy. We've used that as a bit of a crutch. So just more new patients, more new patients, more new patients. But that's a lot of stress on the team. That's a lot of cost to acquire new patients. So that's keeping customers or retaining patients is really a challenge, say in Europe and the United Kingdom. In America, I think customer acquisition cost is a lot higher. So again, everyone's looking for the silver bullet, but the biggest challenge in America is having multiple sources of new customers, because as a source of new patients, as the customer acquisition cost of that source goes up, and let's say we're getting new patients from a particular strategy for $50, $20, $30, all of a sudden that goes to $150, $200. And if we're reliant on that, we're in big trouble. So that's why we need the multiple sources. That's why I need to be doing lunch and learns. So we need to be doing dinner with the docs. That's why we need to be doing the screenings and fairs and fates. It's not about dropping one of those because something else is working well. It's that we want security to have multiple forms of new patients. So in areas where it's difficult to get new patients, or it's a bit more of a challenge to get new patients, it's really working out ways that we can have kind of a few more taps open, so that when we have a strategy work less well, because here's what marketers do. Marketers find something that works. Let's say Facebook, let's say Instagram, let's say lunch and learns, let's say corporate dinner with the docs. And then we do it to or let's say emails. And then we do it to such an extent, the joke is marketers find something that works and then we ruin it. Because everyone in the street's going to be doing it. Everyone at your practice is going to do it many times. But it's not if, it's when a particular new patient source starts performing not as well as it used to, that you have to have not so much stress in the business because you've got multiple sources of new patients. So I hope that kind of answers your questions with that. That's the biggest challenge I'm seeing right now. In the United States, it's not having enough new, predictable, slow, rhythmical sources of new patients in the practice, because we should expect one of them to bomb at some point, one of them to not work well at one point. One of my greatest mentors is a guy by the name of Dan Kennedy, and he always says that one is the worst number in business, because it's an absolute certainty that is not going to work one day. So are we preparing for that? Do we have multiple sources of new patients? So that's the way I answer that.
Nice. We're also seeing that in North America, there's almost seems to be a trend towards having a multi-service clinic. You know, people doing chiropractic, neuropathy, knee pain, decompression. Are you seeing this, and what's your opinion on it? And should docs be considering this?
Okay, so here's what people are saying. Okay, there's two ways to answer this. I heard this brilliant saying once. It was, "Be the wizard. Don't fall for the wizard's tricks." Okay, be the wizard, don't fall for the wizard's tricks. And here's what we see in the profession. We see a lot of people on stage, and particularly in certain sections of the profession, that are very passionate, well-meaning people that love to serve people, and have been doing it for, say, 20 years. And that their industry was always, let's call it, we only adjust. But the truth is, that even the we only adjust doctors normally have something else in the practice too, even though they don't talk about it from stage, is what I'm seeing. Okay, and what that's starting to tell me is that that's absolute fact. Now, for context, I never had any other additional, so there was no neuropathy or decompression or injectables in any of the practices that I worked with. Okay, I didn't do any of that. I was, if you will, straight. But I think every business owner needs to go, as long as, here's the number one question now, should someone do it, is if it's congruent with the way they see their practice going, then they should, let's separate two things. One is how it feels with you internally, and another one is the business aspect from it. From a business aspect, there are absolutely docs that are making this incredibly lucrative for themselves. They are able to they're able to market to other niches. They are able to reach a bigger audience. They're able to market, whether it's decompression and disc patients and neuropathy patients and weight loss and everything in between. And they're making it work for them. Okay, but typically, the doc that's making it work for themselves is normally focused on just one or two. So the biggest mistake I'm seeing is, even if you're going to add another service, first of all, please, if I had a penny for every single time I heard the following sentence, it took longer and was harder than I thought it was going to be. That's first thing. Understand it's going to take longer and it's going to be harder than you think it's going to be. There's no magic wand. So the first thing is how it feels for you internally, and is it congruent for you in your practice to do that? Remember this. Even BJ Palmer had massive rehabilitation areas within the clinics. Remember that. Even BJ Palmer had massive rehabilitation areas within the practices that he forged, and he forged the whole profession. So for someone to say that, let's say, rehab is not chiropractic, that's false. That's not true. Now, I personally am a simple guy who understands one thing, that the chiropractic adjustment works, and that's been my go-to always, and I love it. I like keeping things simple, because the longer I go in business, the more I realize that less is really more. Less is really more. So to answer your question is, can I recommend it? For one doc, I might jump on a call within 20 minutes of each other, and for one doc say, you should absolutely consider it. They may ask me, hey, should I consider decompression? And for one doc, I might go, get to know them a little bit and say, for you, it's a no-brainer. And in 20 minutes time, for another doc, I jump on a call and say they should absolutely not do it, because they just, having worked with them, understand they hate complexity, they hate hiring staff, they're not good at it, they never want to do it. So for them, I'm really like, keep it simple, keep it really simple, because trust me, you're going to be happier, serve more people, make more money if you do keep it simple. So it feels like I'm avoiding the question, would I recommend it? The question, and the answer really is, it really does depend. But are people making it work? Crazily well. And are people not making it work? Absolutely. But you really have to ask yourself those questions, I think. And then the last thing I want you to consider is, if you do diversify, here's the best way I can answer this question for you. If you only have a financial reason for doing it, my belief is that it's going to chip away at you. It's going to chip away at your soul. It's going to chip away at the thing that you most believe in. But if you believe that decompression, and you see it, and you absolutely think that it sticks with your philosophy of no drugs and surgeries, and we're preventing drugs and surgeries from entering our patients because of it, and you've seen it and you've been part of that, I think you're going to do pretty well with it. So it's got to be congruent with you. It's got to be not just about the financial gain, because then you can make it work long term. Because patients can feel it when you believe in the thing. If you bring in a service into your practice and you don't actually believe in it, but you can sell big care plans, I promise you it's going to eat away at your soul. And eventually, the minute the business becomes just about the financial change, or that the fact that it does work, doesn't mean you should do it just because it does work. It means it's got to hit a few of those what I call like key pillars in to make a great trainer and speaker and author. His name's Joe Polish, and he always says that you should aim to have a business be easy, lucrative, and fun. So if the neuropathy, or if the weight loss, or if the injectables, or if the thing chips away at either easy, lucrative, and fun, you've got to start asking yourself a question whether you should do it or not. That's what I'd probably rather leave my listener with, is that's what I ask you a question. Is it gonna compromise on either of those? Is there a lack of congruence? Is it not quite aligned with your overall picture of chiropractic, and does it chip away at either being easy, lucrative, fun? Because my guess is most of the businesses I work with, including my own, by the way, I'm not immune to this, there's been many things I've added in my business that I wish I hadn't, and trimmed it back. But there's more chance of someone adding something and going, oh, I wish I hadn't added that service in. I wish I hadn't done that. Whether it was the vibrocussor or the massager or the whatever it is. That's more what I see, not the opposite. Most people go, meh, I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I hadn't spent the money on that. I wish I hadn't improved that because I haven't seen that. So you got to read between the lines there and understand what's right for one person is different for another person. Hey, real quick, if you're enjoying this video and you'd like to see more content like this, please do me a favor. Just smash that like button, comment down below, or subscribe, and make sure you turn your notifications on so you can see more content just like this.
You speak with many docs all the time. If I was a doc, I was doing 50,000 a month, but I wanted to get to 100,000 a month. I've got a small team, but I'm struggling, plateauing. What are the normal things that you see pop up at this stage, and what do you normally suggest they should do?
So the 50 to 100 grand shift, I have a formula that I always go through, and I learned it from Jay Abraham. Okay, so you should check out his books. He's fantastic. And Jay kind of breaks down, but building a business, there's only 3 ways to grow any business. It doesn't matter whether it's a chiropractic practice or not, but it's either 1, increase the number of new patient acquisition or new client acquisition in any business. 2, raise your prices. And 3, increase the number of times that your service or product is used by the buyer. And we could also say that also goes with increase the average lifetime value or the maximum monetization of any product or service. Is how do we increase that? So normally when I'm jumping on a call someone at 50,000 wants to go to 100,000, I normally go through, try to identify what's their biggest lever they can pull. So they may be getting more than enough new patients. How much is more than enough new patients? As a rule of thumb, I genuinely believe you can live the life of your dreams on 10 new patients a week. And I most of the time recommend not seeing more new patients a week because it takes a lot of energy to process those new patients. But you don't need more than that. Of course, everyone wants more. But generally, if you're getting that, then normally I'd move to the next question and ask someone how much are they charging per visit, per session, per additional service that they have in the practice. And then we'll brainstorm that and go, hey, is there any levers to pull there? Quite often, the next step is just raising our prices. The biggest fear we have is fear of loss. So there's a lot of emotional and mental work to do there to raise their prices. And then the last one is, hey, what's your PVA? What's your retention? Is there work to be done there? And as an offshoot of that is if we do have additional services in the practice, is there ways for us to combine those, add more lucrative opportunities for that? Is there price positioning to happen to change it up? Are we combining services with other services, and can we make this incredible offer to someone to change their health, and that might be another strategy for us to do. But 50 to 100,000. So the first, if you will, triangle I put them through is which one of those is worth our most and immediate use of time. Then someone might say, if we identify that's either new patients, price positioning or price rise or some type of patient retention strategy, then we'll go deeper on those. But normally 50 to 100,000 has got a lot to do with it's the application of the strategies that starts to fall away, because at that point the doc gets busy. Let's say the doc's starting to see more patients every single week. So what happens is his productivity decreases, and if you can build a team around you to maintain the productivity while you serve more people, that's typically when they start to break the ceilings, because the less a chiropractor does, the busier they'll get. Don't mistake that for the less that gets done. That doesn't mean that the emails don't have to get sent. That doesn't mean that the screens don't have to happen. That doesn't mean that the lunch and learns don't have to happen. That doesn't mean that the Facebook ads and Google ads don't have to happen. They still have to happen. But as you get busier, the trade-off with being busier is for you to be more present and serve more people. You're going to have to learn the skill set to get other people around you to hold that space for you. And that's the biggest challenge I see. It's not really so much whether going from 50 to 100,000. I've got a doc at the moment that I'm working with that's trying to break through the 200,000 a month barrier. last month. They'd never broken 150 really. I think they did 170, $180,000 last month, and that is almost exclusively off the back of multiple forms of new patient generation, slow rhythmical production through multiple sources. We did a price positioning strategy, but they know they're not going to maintain it if they don't fix up that team and sort out that team, and they've just hired and they've made themselves more solid there. So for them, getting from and for the first time ever, they sent me a message and they said 200,000 is around the corner a month. So they can see it now and they can see how they can sell it. So it's just they just need to get the things done every single month that they were doing when they were at 50,000 a month. They still have to get those things done at 200,000 a month. But you'd be surprised how many people stop doing things that at some point in their career was working for them, and they stopped doing the things because they got busy. So the less you do as a chiropractor, the busier you'll make, not the less you get done. If you serve more people, trust me, you're going to be able to do less in the business, and that's why your team around you have to be able to maintain those strategies. So that's the number one tip I have for someone. Typically, if they want to break a ceiling, it's because you are trying to do more to be successful. I always say don't get more done, or don't get better, just get it done. Don't get better, get it done. What does that mean? You can't, because most coaches say to people, hey, increase your productivity, you're slacking, get harder, wake up earlier, work later. And I think all of that's pretty unsustainable for most personalities, especially chiropractors. Don't get better, just get it done. What does that mean? Okay, so I still got to send the emails, I still got to have the meetings, I still got to get that stuff. I can't get better at that stuff because I'm getting busier. I still have to get it done. So how do I get it done? I build a team. I have better meetings. I bring in consultants to help me. Maybe I outsource things. So if you're a chiropractor listening to this right now, and I really mean this, the less you do in the practice, the busier you'll get, not the less you get done. And the more you understand, it's not about getting better, it's just about getting it done. And if you take that strategy into your practice, you'll think of lazy ways to get it done. That might be outsourcing, hiring better people, training better people, retaining staff better. That's how you get through a ceiling. There is no magic bullet.
So Ryan, I recently saw you speak about this on stage about managing expectations in the consult. Gosh, I forgot what else you said there.
So ask a question like, so I recently heard you speaking about managing expectation. When a patient comes to see you, you spoke about how it's important to manage the expectations of the patients. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Ryan, I recently saw you speak about managing the expectations of the patient when they're new into the practice.
Yeah.
What exactly do you mean by that?
Okay, so it doesn't matter what service you provide. Most people come into our environments and they want the result yesterday. And the truth is that's an unreasonable expectation from most patients or customers in any way, shape, or form. So when I talk about managing the expectations, we want to make sure that we don't disappoint the customer or the patient by promising something that's just not achievable. But what we find in our industry, we're so desperate to help people that we say things like, we can definitely help you in, or in no time you'll be feeling better, or let's just get you started and see how you goes. Those are all said out of, hey, we're promising the patient, we promise the patient that we're going to get you better like as soon as possible. But the reality is we're dealing with, limitations of matter, that it takes time. If you look at any physiology textbook, if you look at any research, if you look at across the board, how long does it take to get ready for a marathon? For example, I'm even doing it right now. This is what I mean, is that when I talk about controlling the context or controlling the narrative with your patients, we want to make sure that we don't set up unreasonable expectations in their minds about how long it may take them to heal. And by far and away, specific new graduates, we're not even beginning to touch, all the research is showing us, that we're not even beginning to touch the tip of the iceberg when we tell a patient that whatever your recommendations are, that we'll get you better in that amount of time. And then typically what happens is we have unmet expectations or unmet needs from the customer that ends badly, and that's why poor retention happens, is because we haven't addressed it upfront that, hey, healing takes time. It's gonna take a while to get there. Now, how do we do that? I find stories work really well and testimonials work really well. And particularly testimonials that have skepticism within them. So one should never shy away from having a testimonial that starts with, when I came here, I was really skeptical when Dr. Ben said that I had to be seen X amount of time, or that it wouldn't get me better in 3 months. And now the testimonial goes something like this. And now I've been coming here for over 10 years or 4 years or 3 years, or now I bring my whole family, and I realize that healing takes time, and thank goodness I sticked with it. That's a great testimonial for one of your potential customers or patients to see prior to the initial consultation report of findings, because we want to pre-frame the fact that healing takes time. So that's what I mean. And we can control that narrative. So how do we control the narrative more? That's why a workshop or a patient appreciation event or patient orientation event is so important, because we can show before and afters, we can show testimonials, we can have live testimony from people in the room that speak about, hey, I've been coming here for 3 years, I've been coming here for 2 years, I've been, when I started, even things like it took longer than I wanted it to take, but I'm so glad I stuck with it. Now, if a potential new patient hears those stories prior to the selling environment, that's what we call pre-framing them. That's what we call setting them up. And the heart of it is we don't want to promise people things we can't deliver. And saying to a patient, I can get you better, don't worry, we can get you better in no time. That's the definition of bait and switch, really. Is that, hey, once we start them, we're going to start them in care, and we're just going to take some money for them, and then we're going to get them moving in the right direction. But that's just not the truth. They say the truth will set you free. So if you're watching this right now, I hope you understand that you're doing your patients a disservice by not telling them the truth, that healing takes time. But we're so desperate for the approval of the patient that we tell them the opposite. And we say, hey, we can get you fixed in no time. Because we know that's really what the patient wants, but it's not achievable. So then we have unmet expectations at the pros exams, etc. And that's the definition of, we want to under-promise, over-deliver, not over-promise, under-deliver. And I find most chiropractors, just because they feel this need to convert the patient or keep the patient or have a good or promise them that we can get them results, and it's just unrealistic. So that's what I mean by managing expectations, is that your retention will go up, your ease within the practice, your fun within the practice, if you're able to manage the expectations a little bit more and take some pressure off yourself, because the truth is healing does take time.
So I've seen online, Ryan, you've got a platinum mastermind level where you take chiropractors in a room and you basically get them to show their numbers, their balance sheets, their accounts, their profits and loss. Why are you doing that? Can you talk to us about that? What's going on?
Yeah. I'll tell you from personal experience that the biggest challenges I've had in business personally didn't come off the back of not being able to market, didn't have come off the back of not being able to sell. The biggest challenge by country, let's call it a crisis, if I ever had a crisis in business, almost always had to do with some type of mismanagement of accounts or finances in some way, shape, or form. Now, as a small business, it's not unique to the chiropractic profession that small businesses are poor at managing their finances. The amount of consultations I've had with chiropractors that seemingly are doing really, really well, but have mismanaged their tax allocation, I've lost count of. And what happens is when we feel like there's such a disconnect, or there's such a massive knowledge gap for most chiropractors in managing their finances, that we put our heads in the sand, we bury our heads, and all of a sudden, when we find out the challenge that ultimately comes from doing that, every red flag that you are currently ignoring right now, whether it's a tax account, whether it's knowing your numbers, whether it's knowing what a balance sheet is, etc., will eventually come back to bite you. So when we force chiropractors, and I say force, they choose to be there, but when we take chiropractors and we put 8 to 10 chiropractors in a room, and the magic happens before they arrive in the room, because they're expected to produce a side-by-side P&L that's clean, that we can actually trust for the year to date and the previous year. We can start to see some patterns, and we can start to see some areas where cost of sales is too high, or expenses are too high, or wages are too high, or for example, they're mismanaging a certain area within their business. But running a business without looking at your finances and knowing your finances is kind of become the norm within chiropractic. But every one of us have heard of someone who got lumped with a big tax bill. It wasn't that they were poor. It wasn't that they were poor at managing new pay or getting or conversions day 1, day 2, or getting new patients in. Ultimately, the thing that stumped them was their mismanagement of the business structure, of the business structures within the practice. So we've gone really heavy on that, and almost It is the single most successful thing I've ever implemented for chiropractors ever. The single biggest determiner. If you said to me, what's the one thing that if a doc came to me right now and said, I want you to guarantee my success. I want you to guarantee my success. I'd say, no problem. Here's what you have to do. You have to get in a room with 8 to 12 business owners every 4 months or every 3 months, 4 times a year, and you have to have complete transparency. Complete transparency. So A, the business owners in the room have to be at a level that push you, but B, just by having complete transparency, you will perform at levels you never knew were possible because there's nowhere to hide. And if we're honest with ourselves, every one of us have poor numbers in our business that we want to hide and shy away from. But by just like ripping off the Band-Aid and showing everyone everything. So where I got this from was most people, I don't know if people know that are listening to this, but I toured with Robert Kiyosaki for 3 weeks in Europe. And I heard him on stage talk about how his advisors, if he's teaching people how to be wealthy, it goes without saying that his advisors should have some type of wealth. And he says to ensure the standard of the product, he forces his advisors who train on his behalf to show their bank balances, their profit and loss, and their balance sheets to all the other advisors. Now think about it. If you know that's coming and you want to be in a position to teach people wealth, you should have some yourself. So he wants to ensure that his advisors have some type of, let's call it, wealth or assets or balance sheet that looks appropriate. So he forces them in a room to do that. But guess what that does? That creates such growth within the advisors and continues to challenge them, because even they are multi-millionaires, every level is a new devil. And he keeps them accountable and he keeps them growing. And when I heard him say that, it was like a light bulb went in me. I was like, I actually believe that every single, I think that the chiropractic profession would be in a good place if before every single event that people walking on stage had to show their balance sheets and their bank balances. I know someone listening to this right now has just had a heart attack and went, oh, that sounds so like such a high standard. But good. Shouldn't we expect that of the people that are teaching us about wealth and how to go practice? Do they actually have any? And the other thing is, I really wouldn't trust someone who stands on stage and says they haven't had some extreme challenges. That's just not. You should absolutely be wary of any coach, consultant, or mentor that's not able to stand on stage and tell you some absolute disaster, because statistically proven, I think the stat is that like most billionaires have had like 3 to 7 bankruptcies. If billionaires have been through it, trust me, every single person every single guru or whatever has had their whole staff resign, a tax bill they never expected, etc. And that's why they are good at the thing, is because they've had the challenges they had to overcome. Now, when you're in a platinum environment and you force people to do what we call a hot seat, we talk about those challenges, we talk about how to overcome them. But the biggest growth by a country mile comes from forcing them to get their finances in order. Because if you're going to show a room of 8 to 10 practices your finances, it takes a lot to get it clean enough for them to read, and that's where most of the success comes from. So that's why we've done that, because in my experience, from personal experience, my biggest mistakes came from not having my finances in order. So if I from my personal experience, the thing that changed the game for me the most was being in these masterminds myself, which really makes me always think about. Number one question I ask a coach or mentor is, who's their coach or mentor? Because a coach without a coach is, in my opinion, not a coach. Who's challenged them? What masterminds are they going to? What events are they going to? Robert Kiyosaki himself has coaches. I mean, Rich Dad Poor Dad is the single biggest selling business book of all time. And the guy who produced the single biggest business selling, most sold book in the history of business books has coaches. Surely we should all have a coach. Doesn't matter where you are. So that's why I started Platinum, was most importantly, extreme transparency. Extreme. And if you're able to do that, you watch how much you'll grow. Because just out of sheer guilt sometimes, you're like, wow, I've really got to up my game in those areas. So it's been absolutely incredible, and we've had people triple their practice, and people go from $500,000 dollars to over 1.5 million. That's triple their practice simply from being in a platinum style mastermind. That's why we did it.